Deirdre Vervo here. Thanks so much for joining me on Let's Talk Seniors, Memory Care Issues, Dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. Well, you may know me from either my home-to-home senior book, housing book that I wrote, or the workbook that I wrote and teach. If you're interested in a copy of either, they're wonderful. They actually talk about all different kinds of housing, from assisted living to memory care to independent living to nursing homes. And the workbook talks about what your wishes are. So good thing to do with your grown children. If you're a senior, what are your wishes? Where would you like to go if something happened to you? Would you like to stay in your home? Would you like to go somewhere? Would you like to live near one of your children? Where's the money? What are your wishes for your funeral? So it goes over a lot of things that are a little hard to talk about, but a little easy to talk about when there is actual book, paper, and a program to follow. Today, we're going to be talking to Kristin Krebs, and she has done something that's really fun. Well, it speaks to my heart because I am going to show you that I have, oh my goodness, hundreds of photo albums. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you love to take photos like me and you have parents that have tons of photos as well, and you're wondering, oh my gosh, my parents are moving, they're downsizing, or they passed, what do I do with all their photos? Nobody wants to throw away all those amazing memories, but I don't know what my children are going to do with hundreds of photo albums. They don't want them in their house. And so what do you do with all these amazing memories? It's too hard to get rid of, but it's too hard to store. So Kristin is going to come on and tell us she has come up with this amazing new business called Photos in Place. So Kristin lives in New Fairfield, and she used to be a corporate event planner, but she found a real niche, and she does this worldwide. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kristin to you. So Kristin, welcome, Kristin Krebs.
Hello.
So nice to meet you, and I love what you do, and I think there's a real need for it. So thank you so much for coming up with a great idea.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so as long as it's people have digitized photos, you could do this all over the world, right? So why don't you tell us what you do and how you got into it? How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I got into this as probably about 10 years ago, actually even longer now, about 15 years ago, when my son was young. I had this fear of losing all of my printed photos of, my high school days and everything. And I always just had this fear of fire. I don't know why. And that it would take everything. And I always had to game plan of what I was grabbing on the way out. And all of these big, bulky albums, it just wasn't going to be possible. So I looked into, digitizing. When we started getting digital cameras, my son was 5. I had left the corporate world at that point, and I decided I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I had time on my hands. So I bought myself a flatbed scanner back then, and I just started scanning my albums just while watching TV. It was a very slow process back then. And I had, finished all of that. I put that away. My son was now going into first grade. I was bored. I had, been working my whole life. So I decided I can't be the only one with this fear and wanting my printed photos digitized and taken out of these albums and preserved properly, and all my shelf space back. So I started Googling, information about digitizing photos and businesses and things like that. And I stumbled upon a website called, back then it was the Association of Professional Photo Organizers. And I joined, and I did all of my training through them. And it just has become a passion to hear the stories that go along with everybody's photos, and pulling those out and going through them again, and actually creating, nicer pieces with your photos than everything just sitting in a box. So that's really what sparked me. And I've always loved going, looking at my mom's old albums and sitting around and hearing the old stories and laughing. And it just became a very strong passion of mine. So I did it part-time for a while, using my family, some friends, while I was learning and working part-time. And then I decided a few years ago just to go 100% with this business because there's a need for it. And there's a lot of people out there who want to save their family stories and digitize.
Kristin, I love that. Well, I personally share your fear, not of a fire, but you're going to love that I used to keep my negatives in a safety deposit box in the bank. In case of anything. I was like, what would I care about in this house? My memories that would, besides people, are your photos. Those are your memories. So I used to keep all my negatives filed away in the deposit box in the bank.
Yeah.
Probably thought I had something really important there. And to me, I did. But
well, you know, when you see these natural disasters on TV, what are people searching for? They're not looking for their sofa. They're looking for their photos, and that's what they want. And I just don't want, you know, when you preserve them and digitize them, you never have to have that fear. You always have them backed up somewhere.
Well, it's interesting that your business and your idea came kind of full circle, because now people don't even put their photos in photo albums. They don't even print out pictures. And I see that my own stepkids, they barely have photos of them because they have a zillion photos of them on the camera. So to them, that's enough. But how are they ever going to look back and see their life unless they're keeping all these digitized photos in somewhere? And what's the likelihood of that happening for 40 years, that you're keeping your discs and your, hard drives?
Yeah. Well, the digital photos are actually more at risk of being lost than printed photos these days, because people aren't backing up, and you lose your phone, you lose your photos. If your hard drive crashes, you could lose everything. So it's really about, when you go digital, it's about backup and cloud storage and copies, so that if one device fails, you have that backed up. And, external hard drives these days aren't expensive, and you can store a lot on them. And that's the recommendation with your digital photos now.
So basically, you digitize people's photos and then you print them out to them or give it back to them in a digitized form?
When I collect somebody's large, most people have boxes, shoe boxes, bins of photos, whether they're still in those packs that you used to get from CVS or your photo developer. Sometimes, and a lot of times you got those in duplicates. So you have 2 copies of everything. I pretty much take all of that stuff into my studio, and I just start going through it and try to deduplicate if I see things in there, get it all ready for scanning. I scan it all. I put it into archival storage, which is a box similar to this. There's a bunch of different styles. It goes in a box like this, all organized with tabs saying what the years are and everything. And that gets stored. That's much easier to store than big, huge albums. This is probably 4 albums worth of photos in here. Then you get an external hard drive or a flash drive back. So a flash drive, if you don't have many, most customers, I do an external hard drive, which is pretty much the size of your cell phone. And then I give instructions on what to do with this. Because again, you're not looking, you can't see your photos with just this. You have to plug it in, and it's an organized system. So when I get somebody's collection, once they're scanned, you don't get image number 1, 2, 3, 4 back. You're actually going to get, Uncle Bob at the cabin in Maine, and it'll say all that in the title, which helps make your photos searchable. So if you're looking for something in particular, you're able to find it. So that's the one step further that I take the collection, is renaming everything, because without them named, it's very hard to find anything.
But Kristin, people don't even want to do that. They just want you to print it out. Like, here's like my mom has lots of books, and there's some are small, some are big, some are this. Can I give you all the books? And then you're going to take them all apart, and you're going to scan them all in and give me back some nice photo books?
Yes, you can. What we can do is, pick the best of the best out of those. Out of all of those pictures that are scanned, you pick the best of the best, and you would create a photo book out of that. If you're just if you're just organizing the digital mess, which is a whole nother project in itself, those photos too. You want to be able to view your photos and see them easily. So yes, creating photo books is a passion of mine, because I want to take these photos now out of these boxes, these digital boxes that you can't really see, and bring them back into your life. And the way to do that is by printing out, photo books. And I print out a photo book pretty much for my family every year. So I have 2019. I do a theme. It's always a water cover on mine, and this is my year in review. And then it's everything that we've done. So it's very nice pictures laid out. They're thin. This is 50 spreads of photos. So it's a year's worth in one small album. So it's very, easy. It's not taking up as much space as our old albums used to. And this is safe for my photos.
And do you put words and copy in there as well?
Yes. I usually try to label people's names, what the place was, what maybe if there's a little story that goes along, if it's somebody's birthday, a family vacation. We took a vacation in 2018 to Cuba. So this is the Cuba book. And in here, there are all the photos. And then I have, where each location was, different little facts about Cuba and things like that. So, making albums for special trips and things is always nice. It's kind of a bonus. I had so many pictures from that trip. It didn't fit in my year in review. I had to create its own album.
I love it. I love it. So if somebody were to give you their albums to just create other small albums, you could do that.
Absolutely. These albums here are old style albums. I have one here to show you. Everybody probably has one of these. And this is actually a sticky album. It's the sticky pages. This is empty. It's taken all out. These actually eat your photos. They're very, very bad for your photos. That's what causes them, the yellowing and everything. It's that glue. So your photos are actually not safe in those sticky albums. They should come out. Sometimes they're really stuck in there. So it can be a project to get them out. But yes, the recommendation is to get them out of those and scan them. And then instead of now you're not looking at them anymore, yes, my recommendation is to take the best of the best and print those in an album. And if you can sit down with an older family member and get those stories that go with those photos and put that in the book, that is really the golden nugget to the whole thing. Because when you're just looking at a photo, you don't know who's who and why are they all there. But when you add a little bit of a story to it, it really makes each photo come to life. And you want to choose your photos for your books that, when you look at it, it causes an emotion or a really great memory for you or historical value. That's what you ultimately want to save and put in those books. You don't want, scenery shots of a field, because that doesn't mean anything to future generations. They really want to see and hear your family's stories.
Kristin, the way I started doing all my photo scrapbooking was just what you just said. My daughter was going on a trip, and a woman, mother on one of the moms, started photo scrapbooking, and she said, if you have those magnetic albums, you are going to ruin your pictures. Aesthetically, they're all going to ruin. And I was like, I have 100, 200 of those. And I ran home and I started taking, tearing those apart and putting them in shoe boxes before I started photo scrapbooking.
Yeah.
She put the fear in me that these pictures were not going to last. But funny story, my daughter goes on this trip, and I'm talking 20 years ago. And we buy a really good camera because she was in, I don't know, like England and Ireland and all, and 3 weeks. So we buy her a good camera. And I said, now, don't be taking pictures of scenery. Make sure you're in the picture. Nobody cares about scenery. After you're there, you look at that sunset, nobody wants to see that sunset again, right? So so lo and behold, she comes home, and I'm looking at pictures of my daughter's pictures and her friends' pictures. And I said, oh, did you not go on this trip? Oh, she's like, I did, Mom, but I didn't get pictures there because nobody could take pictures of me in them, so I didn't take any. I was like, wow, you really took that to heart. But yeah, I totally hear you. And now I have all these photo albums, but I'm thinking of like my own mom. And
Mhm.
she has all my grandmother's pictures. And
Yes.
I would love, my kids don't even know my grandmother, but I do. So I would love to do what you're saying, take the best, get the stories from my mom. And so my kids are now reading a storybook, whether they know these are their relatives or not. Now they're getting to know relatives through the
Yes.
story. And you live on, and
Yes.
when somebody passes, they live on through the story so they don't die.
Yeah, and your life is important, and it's important to make books and so that your kids can see that you lived a great life. I mean, our kids, my son just turned 20. He only sees me as a mom. He doesn't, when he looks at the old albums of me, he's like, oh, you did this? Oh, you went there? Oh, like,
Wow,
yeah,
maybe
I had a full life before I had you,
do you really want them to know all those wild stories? Maybe you don't want them to know the story.
It's edited down.
Yeah. Oh, he's like, you were a kid? You were 20? How did that happen? You're my mom.
Yeah. I mean, I have my grandmother's old album, and it's from her when she was at camp. And I just wish that she was still here to tell us those camp stories to go with that book, because that's the piece that's missing. I'll be like, these are obviously friends and girlfriends, but what were they doing? Why were they laughing so hard? And so there's a lot of questions. So I always, try to encourage people to sit down and get the stories while you can.
Okay. Now, is your website photos in place?
Yes.
This right? Photos,
Yes.
not photo. Okay, I had it wrong.
Yeah.
Photos in place. So if somebody goes to your website, do they need to, are they sending, so there's two ways to do it, right? They could send you digitized photos and you can make books and clean it up and do whatever, and you could do that from all over the world, or they could mail you or deliver somehow all their photos. What's the best way to receive them? Do you like people to go through and put them in order themselves and maybe get rid of their own duplicates and get rid of, if they have the time, and just save the good ones?
What happens is most people have really great intentions that this is a project they're going to tackle, and they're going to go through them, and then they'll get them to me. And what happens is you've been putting it off for 10, 15, 20 years. They've been sitting around in the, closet, basement, attic, and it's always this guilt, like, I need to do something with these pictures. I need to do something with them. And it's the time. Nobody these days has the time to go through that. If you have the time, the recommendation would be, yes, you go through, you pull them out, keep the best of the best, what means something to you. If you don't have the time, I would come to you. I would look over what you have. I would bring everything back into my studio, and I would start to pull it all apart. And there's telltale signs on albums, on pictures of things of decades, and I know what to look for. You really have to kind of be a detective looking at these things. And I put it into an organized fashion. It's easier for me to scan everything, and then you just delete the scans that you don't necessarily want. It's just a faster process if I'm doing it all in my studio. I'm not emotionally attached to your photos, so I can move through things fairly quick. Where when you're looking through your photos, you're stopping and remembering and reminiscing. So the process is going to take a lot longer.
It take forever just to get them to you, because you're like, oh, what about all those little, like, my mom has, I don't know, they're like 1 by 2.5 inch, it looks like, black and whites.
Yeah.
Can you do those?
Yes, all of that. Any fragile older pictures get put on a larger size flatbed scanner. When I'm scanning old fragile pictures, we do platinum scanning. We wear white gloves so that none of the oils on the fingers are getting on those, and it's really taking good care of those photos because they are a lot older, and handling them as little as possible, and then getting them into the proper storage pretty quickly.
So what is like the largest job you've gotten that, that was just like, oh my gosh?
I recently, back in December, I returned a large photo collection. It was 8 very large boxes of archived photos. It was a family's entire collection. A lot of them were water damaged from Superstorm Sandy. They lived on the coast in Connecticut. And so it was a lot of cleaning up some old, dirty photos. She had saved a lot of them by laying them out to dry. It took me about 18 months to go through everything and scan and return. So right before the holidays, everything went back to her. She was very excited.
Wow, what a nice
and what's nice is now all 4 of her children have the exact same collection on an external hard drive, the way that they wanted it.
Okay, so now when you say clean, are you scanning them and then just doing some Photoshop, or are you cleaning them physically?
No, these photos physically had sand all in them from the storm, so cleaning them that way. When I scan, if we're going to use any particular photos in an album, that is when you would go in and it's very light touching up. So removing red eye, brightening dark photos, that kind of thing, to make the photos really kind of stand out and pop in an album.
Wow. Okay. So this is like a long process. What is a typical job that, didn't get, and wow, you didn't think about that one when you had a fear of fire. You weren't like, oh, fear of storms.
Yeah.
You could add that to your fear now. But
that was a few years ago in May when the storm came over New Fairfield. Yes, I was like, my photos are safe.
Yay, yay. So what is a typical job? Like, what are people typically like bringing to you?
I think the last year, with the pandemic going on, a lot of people are cleaning out their closets and stuff like that. I've been getting a lot of like movie transfers, so 8mm reels and things like that. So that kind of stuff. A typical job, that I like to do is really, preserving the photos. A lot of digital stuff has been coming in lately. People are their digital photos are all over the place, and they're trying to wrangle that in. We're taking more and more digital photos these days, and they're all over the place. So a lot of that coming in too.
Kristin, you did not mention that. Are you also doing people's 8x8mm reels and things like that? Will you do slides?
Yes, all of the old film, VHS tapes, things like that. VHS was built to last 10 years, and that was many, many, many years ago, much longer than 10. So VHS tapes are, at risk of losing whatever's recorded on those. So yes, trying to get all of that digitized, working with clients with that, which has been fun because they're trapped in their houses. So they're giving me these old VHS tapes and we're converting them, and now they got new shows to watch.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Incredible. So you do everything to do with photos and movies and videos. Yes,
just a preservation of your memories. Yes.
So I have an interesting question. Well, I don't know if it's an interesting question, but I have a question for you. I have a granddaughter. She's 4 years old. I love her. So I take a million little clips of her life, like 10 seconds, 15 seconds here, 20. And I thought it would be so cool to put that in annually, like you're doing with your photo books, in a movie for her.
Yeah.
Because it's like only 10 seconds here, or 20 seconds, or a minute here.
Yeah.
You compile them. Is that something you do?
I don't do a lot of video editing myself in the studio. It's just not my forte. I will recommend, if you have an iPhone, iMovie is a fantastic, very simple tool to actually pull all of those together. So when I go away, if I go to see my nephews, I will take, like you said, a bunch of, 10 to 30 second clips of us throughout the weekend. First thing I do when I get home is open iMovie, load in all of those clips. It's as simple as just clicking all of the movies itself, say create a movie, and it's done. And then I delete all of the smaller clips, and now I have one maybe 3-minute clip of the weekend together.
Love it. I would never do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of
it's a great idea. Like, that's something you want other people to do for you.
Yes, yes. It's there's a lot of technology and a lot of apps out there that once things are digital, there's endless possibilities of what you can really do with that, your movies and your photos and things.
I love it. So Kristin, give us an idea of the cost. Like what could people be looking at for cost? How do you price?
It's very difficult to price out. I don't price like per scan because it really depends on the condition of your photos, how I'm getting things in. If I'm getting a job where you've pulled everything out and you're only giving me what you want to scan and it's in good condition, it's something that can move along fairly fast. I'm taking apart all of your books and something is super sticky, it's going to take me longer. I'm going to treat every photo as it's your prized possession. So I'm going to try everything I can to get that out of that book without tearing it or, ruining the photo. If I can't, I will scan it on the sticky stuff. But so it's very difficult to just give a ballpark number without seeing a client's project. Even if you were to tell me you have a bin of photos, I have no idea what that looks like till I get in your house. And it might be a very large bin. It could be 2 bins because you went back in the closet and found another. So it's very difficult to just give a price of the job. So the way that I work is session-based, and a session is 4 hours. And whatever I can get done in that session. So I usually start with 2 to 3 sessions with a client, and then just work through things. As we go through it, I can get a better idea of how fast we're going to go. And then by doing that, I can also work within a client's budget. So if they don't have the funding or the budget to get everything done, in a week, we can work over the course of many months together. The photos have been sitting in your closets for a long time, so we can go through it, kind of phase it phase by phase and move along with your budget.
Okay. So if you have 1,000 photos in a box all labeled by the year and put the stories together and gave that to you, would that take like weeks to do, months to do?
No, if it's a shoebox full, it's probably about 1,200 photos. Pretty much it's 100 photos per inch, believe it or not. And if it's something where all of those photos are in really good shape and it's just going through a high-speed scanner, and then you're just adding some stories to those, which is a technical, I don't want to get technical on everybody, but pretty much there's metadata attached to every digital photo, and that's pretty much the back of your photo where you can do all your writing, except I can do unlimited writing on the back of your digital photo. And it stores a lot of information there. And that's where your story would go. And you can see that in certain programs. Not a lot of programs have that. When you look at Google Photos and things like that, they strip all that out. So, but there are other places where you can see that stuff. So you're adding the stories there. Depends on the detail of how many stories are attached to each of those photos and how much typing is in there. But I would say with a shoebox size that's fairly ready to go, it could be 1 session to 2 sessions.
Okay. So then about how much is like a 4-hour session?
My sessions, I charge $400 per session.
Okay. So about $100 an hour.
$100 an hour. And when you go to the big box scan houses, if you average it out, it's about the same. It's maybe a little bit of savings, but the difference is with them is you're going to get the same mess back. It's just a digital mess. What I'm giving you back is an organized photo collection.
No, I love it. I love it.
So it's a big difference.
And you're doing it, and it's not like going somewhere and who knows if you're getting your photos back. And, that's a worry, if you're worried that they're going to be on fire or be damaged by a storm, it's nice to know they're in your hands and, you're digitizing them and you're putting them in books. But I'm definitely going to go through some things that I have now that we've talked. And also when I see my mom next, because she's busy throwing out pictures of me, and my brothers. And
You need to rescue those and have those scanned quick, and then she can throw them out.
right, but because if I rescue them, then they're just sitting here on my shelves, which I don't have much space for either. So
Yeah.
and it's funny, and kids do nothing these days on paper. If I send my kids a card and they love it, they take a picture and throw the card out. They don't save one thing. So everything is digitized with them, but it doesn't mean it's printed out anywhere. So then it's kind of, how often are you going through your digital photos? It's nice to have it printed out. So I love it.
Yeah, it's nice to have them printed out. The trouble, like all of your beautiful scrapbooks behind you, the younger generation, they just don't want that. They don't want that clutter. They don't want that bulk of storing, that type of thing. But they would love it on an external hard drive. And there's a lot of, like I said, once you're in digital formats, there's so much you can do with it. There's a lot of different websites that'll host your photos that have beautiful viewing features. SmugMug is one of them that I like. And when you open that up on your phone, it's really a nice tool, but everybody's gathered around your phone. Not like sitting on the sofa and opening up a beautiful book and being able to everybody look at it at the same time. It's very different having it in print. What's nice now is with the newer photo books is you can get a lot of photos into a book and the size is very small. And that's more for us. Like my son, I've printed him a few books and he looks at them quick and that's it. He prefers it digital. I actually have a digital book for him. He opens it up and it's digital. All the digital photos fly through it.
What do you mean?
I forget the exact name of the book now, but it opens up. It looks like a book, but when you open it up, it's a screen and it's showing all of I can put videos for him and photos for him and things like that.
It's on your computer, but it looks like book pages turning.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I get it. That's cool. That's really cool. Oh my gosh. You are so full of fun information. I love everything to do with photos. But I just love to print. Yeah, I even have like a photo printer here because like I have aunts and relatives that don't have use of the computer. So they're always like, send me pictures of your grandkids, and nobody prints them out. So I'm printing out for them.
That's great.
Send to them because they want to see it. And but I tell you, if I send pictures to people now, I know they're just throwing them out.
Probably. I know when I get like the Christmas card photos and things, I scan all of those and keep them, with my yearly photos. They just go at the end of the year.
You have a high-speed scanner. So you have all the professional equipment. That's fantastic. Yeah. I love your business. Yeah. So are there a lot of people that do this? Like there's a whole association?
Yes. They changed the name recently. It's now called the Photo Managers. You can go on their website and there's a whole directory of photo organizers there. They're all across the US and in other countries. We all collaborate together. If I have a project that maybe I just don't have the time to do, I can call one of my colleagues local here and see if they can help me out. If it's somebody calls me from, California and they have printed photos that they don't want to put in the mail, I can send them to somebody more local to them. In Connecticut, there's, I'm not sure how many of us there are. There's quite a few, but it is a new and upcoming business. It's, trying to get people to understand that we're out there and we're here to help bring your memories back into your life and out of those boxes. And so it's really trying to spread the word. I know when I meet people, they're like, oh my God, I didn't know you existed. I need your help. That's pretty much the reaction that I get when I tell people what I do for a living these days.
That is a really cool job. And it's creative, it's artistic, and you're looking at other people's memories, and it's a cool job because you're making people super happy after they get all their pictures back and get them printed or get them digitally. I'm sure everybody's like thrilled with everything you do.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, the best feeling is turning something back over to somebody, you know, when it's all organized, and just the look of relief and joy that you give back it makes it all worth it.
You're making me want to go pull out all the photos I have that are not in these albums. No, because really I haven't thought about it in a while, and I'm sure people do. That's when it like sparks their like thinking, because they don't really know what to do with them. And I have tons of shoe boxes with photos in them before I started photographing that I just took out not to ruin, right? So what to do with them? I can't photograph everything, but it's a great idea what to do with them. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. At least just take out the important ones and make some yours. Otherwise, nobody will ever look at them there.
No.
Nobody's going through 100 photo shoe boxes of your photos. Nobody cares.
No. But if you pull out the pieces that tell your story and your family's story, and you know, wrap that into a nice book, it's priceless. It really is.
I think it's a beautiful book for grandparents to give to their grandchildren, and it's a beautiful book for children to give to their parents, you know, as a gift, to just sit with them and say, listen, I really want to have memories of your life. So can we sit and do this together? Because I want, you know, to remember all this, and I don't even know it. So I love it, Kristin. What a great idea.
Yeah.
What an idea. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to do with your grandparents, because you can gather the stories and capture that in writing and pass that down and on. And that's really where my passion lies, is to bring those stories back into your family's lives. You know, I love hearing our family's old stories, you know, and I love telling my son those stories. And they've actually done some research on that, and children who grow up hearing their family stories actually feel more connected with their family, and they feel like they have a purpose, because it's not just, you know, mom and dad and them. It's actually a bigger, you know, community of family, and they get to learn more about where they come from and things, and it's you know, really healthy for them to know.
I love it. I love that. That makes sense, because then you feel more connected to a bigger world than, you know, your little nuclear.
Yes.
Family. But Kristin, what a great thing. So people can either get in touch with you by calling 203-733-9715, or your website, photosinplace.com. And you know, you're up in Fairfield, you could especially digitize anywhere in the world. So if you have relatives in other countries, you could digitize for them. But physically, if you want to be near, what did I do with you? There you are. I love it. I love it. I love it. Anything else people should know that you want to tell?
I think you know, if you wanted to try to tackle this on your own, you know, I have a few tips that I'd like to give people. I know everybody wants to try to, you know, it's always a to-do usually on people's lists, like pull those old photos out that you might have inherited, or, you know, that you want to clean up to pass down to your kids because they don't want, you know, the big boxes of photos. And the first thing to do is to kind of plan out a goal. Like, how do you envision your photos at the end? Do you envision them, you know, in archival storage? Do you just want it digitized and on an external hard drive? How do you want to view them? And once you have that end goal in mind, you know, then you can move forward a little easier. I would say, you know, the next step would be to gather everything. We have, you know, a ton of flash drives with photos on it. We have all of these lovely SD cards from the old digital cameras with photos on them. We have these lovely pieces, CDs with photos on them. And then you have regular, you know, your albums and, you know, your old sticky albums and stuff, and pretty much gather all of that stuff together and into one area, and then start to go through them piece by piece. The digital things you're going to add once you get an external hard drive or a larger size flash drive, and you're just going to dump all of that information together. and your scanned items will go into that, and that'll all get organized when you're actually scanning them. And, you know, the next step would be a few tools to help you. Believe it or not, dental floss is the key to removing sticky photos, because you can slide the dental floss, you know, under those photos. A magnifying glass. This will help you read some of the smaller dates sometimes on the older photos. Flipping your photos over and matching like backs to each other is actually the better way to sort than looking at the fronts, because you'll get those numbers across the back and you'll find a whole, you know, stack of photos that kind of belong together that way.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to be a detective. So, and then for writing on your photos, you should use these Sablio pencils. So these don't harm the back of your photos like a pen would do, or a pencil. And then, of course, the best thing you can have is a stack of Post-it notes. And this is where you're going to write the dates or the decades or the themes or however you're going to sort your photos. And then you're going to find a large table that you don't need to pick up that often and start sorting out all those photos. And the recommendation is just to start small, a small batch at a time, and just do that, and then you can walk away. And then another small batch. When you look at the whole project, it's overwhelming and it's too large, and you just end up walking away. Where if you just do it one book at a time, you're making progress. So that's, you know, really the way to attack that kind of project. Then you're going to decide what's the best of the best. And if you want to scan everything or only the good photos, and then you will get that stuff ready to be scanned. Even if you're not going to scan your photos, still go through the process, still organize them, and still write the stories on the back for the future generation. If you don't, you know, can't do that next step or afford the next step of scanning, at least get those stories captured and the photos in some kind of order. It does help.
Kristin, and listen, all great advice, and all the tips that you just gave will get you more business. Because when people start it, they'll be like, where's Kristin's number?
Yes, well, that's what I was going to say. And if you get stuck along the way, you just give me a call. And then once everything's digitized, the biggest thing that I have to stress is a backup plan. You need to back up your digital photos. And if you're not doing that currently with your phone or your stuff that you have scanned, there's a lot of different areas where you can store your photos. If you're an Amazon Prime member, photo storage is included in your Prime membership for free. Use it. It's there. And most people have Prime.
It's good to have your own backup because you never know what's going to happen with somebody else.
Yes. The standard is 3 copies of your digital photos. Wow. So it could be on your computer, an external hard drive, and then a cloud-based service, so that an off-site service.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kristin. You have been a wealth of information. I love it all because I'm in love with photos. And it's funny, I think today's kids, they take a zillion photos, but they're not great photos because they're taking a million pictures of themselves. But then so many other people look like professional photographers now just with a simple iPhone. So
yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for showing us how to take multi-generations of photos and put them in nice slim books and albums and keep them nice and safe. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if anybody, okay, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks so much. That's Photos in Place, and Kristin is amazing. That's a lot of work. If anybody's ever tried to digitize, years ago, I've done just small shows for my parents, and it was really time consuming. So Kristin's phone number is 203-733-9715. So give her a call or ring or check out her website. I'm definitely going to look in my closet where I have a shoebox full of photos and get rid of some because my kids don't want them, but I don't want to give them up. So thank you so much, Kristin. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Let's Talk Seniors. And I will see you next week.
Hi, Deirdre here again. Thank you for joining me on Let's Talk Seniors Memory Care Issues. Is this an issue hitting home? Do you have a parent or loved one with memory care issues who you feel is not safe at home anymore? Are isolation, falls, and safety issues becoming a big concern? Welcome to Dogwood Senior Home, premier boutique residential senior living specializing in memory care. It's country living at its best in the Huntington section of Shelton, Connecticut. We're truly a home with only 6 senior residents living as one family unit. Senior residential homes are concepts sweeping the nation with 47,000 across the U.S. We're pleased to open Dogwood Senior Home as it will be only number 6 for Connecticut. Brand new, sparkling clean, opening mid-June. And safe, safe, safe. We are COVID-free. Residential care homes boast a very low COVID infection rate across the nation. This is due to the intimacy of size and speed in which the caretakers can shift to accommodate immediate needs. They are much safer than the large homes and facilities, as you can imagine. It has been documented that residents have less falls and a better quality of life in a residential home environment. Our home is more affordable than the big box facility. You pay one all-inclusive price, and that price is guaranteed for the life of the resident. With an incredible 1-to-3 caregiver ratio, which you won't find anywhere else. Our friendly, loving caregivers are dedicated and trained in Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's issues. We're only taking 6 residents, so the home will fill up fast. Call me at 203-689-7562 for a talk and tour. I would love to meet you and your loved one. See you soon. Bye.